Episode 16. How could it be him? How could she get into that room? Natalie frowned. At that moment, a waiter pushed a food trolley past her. This gave her an idea. She strode forward and snatched the trolley, smiling as she said to the startled waiter, "Let me do it." "Who are you?" he said, realizing that he didn't recognize her. "You don't know me? I was just hired today." She feigned shock and her eyes widened. Then she sighed helplessly and said, "Well, this hotel is so big and there's so many employees. It's not like we all know each other. You should go rest. I can do this." "But..." The waiter wanted to say more, but she cut him off. "It's okay. We're colleagues. We have to help each other out. You look tired. You probably haven't had a good rest in a while. Just take this opportunity to have a break, okay?" "I look tired?" He lifted his hand and touched his face. "Now." Natalie pushed the trolley toward the room with the guards. By the time the waiter could react, she had already entered the room. It was very quiet inside, so quiet that it didn't seem like anyone was living there. Natalie looked around, but she didn't see Liam. Her thin eyebrows creased. Could she have guessed wrong? Maybe he wasn't here. Suddenly, she heard the sound of water splashing, and she turned to look at the bathroom. The door was frosted glass, and she could vaguely see a tall figure on the other side. Her heart skipped a beat. Ooh, this was bad. She was in the wrong room, and there was someone here, in the shower. She had to escape. She turned around to leave, but in her hurry, she didn't pay attention to where she was going, and she bumped into the trolley. Bryce closed his eyes and let the warm water spray over his body. Suddenly, he heard the sound of something crashing to the floor. His eyes opened in shock, and he quickly turned off the shower. Without the sound of the flowing water, the room instantly fell quiet. A faint moan came from outside the bathroom. With a cold expression, he pulled a towel around his waist and strode out. Oh my God! How could she be so unlucky? When Natalie bumped into the trolley, she couldn't react in time and fell backwards onto the floor. Oh, her butt hurt. The pain made her grimace, and she couldn't hold back a groan. Suddenly, a pair of hotel slippers appeared in her line of sight. Natalie sucked in a breath of cold air. She immediately shut her mouth, and her mind raced as she tried to figure out how to explain herself to the guest in this room. But before she could come up with an excuse, a cold voice came crashing down on her from above. "You really don't know how to give up." Why was that voice so familiar? She frowned and slowly raised her head. A handsome, familiar face came into view. Her eyes widened. Oh my God, how could it be him? Bryce looked down at her condescendingly. His black eyes were deep and frightening. An unlucky person will find themselves in all sorts of unfortunate situations. Natalie tilted her head and gritted her teeth. Then she took a deep breath and faced him with a calm smile on her face. What a coincidence. Bryce sneered. Yes, what a coincidence. Natalie got up and stood straight. After considering what she should say, she asked, "If I told you this was an accident, would you believe me?" "An accident?" Bryce raised his eyebrows and scoffed. His black eyes narrowed as he leaned closer to her. "Do you really think I'd believe you?" His hair was wet and disheveled. Compared to the serious and detached version of him she had seen during the day, this version was a little more seductive. Natalie swallowed, her heart beating fast. She took a step back to increase the distance between them. With the same smile on her face, she responded, "How can I know what you're thinking?" He smiled sarcastically. "You don't dare to guess my thoughts, but you do dare to enter my room? Natalie, should I call you brave?" He said this as he stepped closer to her. She backed away again. "I'm not lying. This was an accident. I thought Liam was here. I came to find him." Bryce chuckled and then immediately stopped. His expression turned sullen. "Do you think I believe that?" Sensing that he was getting angrier and angrier, Natalie realized the danger she was in and turned around to escape. But he was faster. He reached out his long arms, grabbed her waist, and pulled her closer to him. A strong musk assaulted her senses. Startled, she tried to struggle. "Let me go!" But he was too strong. She couldn't move an inch. She gave up struggling and glared at him. "What are you trying to do?" "What?" He smirked as his black eyes flashed with a strange light. "Don't you know what I want to do?" "I don't," she said sharply, Are you trying to... Bryce raised his eyebrows. Isn't that why you came here? No. The sooner Natalie said the word, the more she felt the world spinning around her. By the time she could react, she was already on the bed. Bryce pressed his tall body against her, so there wasn't the slightest gap between them. Even though she had had a child, she was still a stranger to lovemaking. This was the first time she had been this close to a man without passing out. She didn't feel any lust. She only felt extremely ashamed and fearful. Her face turned red, and she forcefully pushed him away. Get off! But he grabbed her hands and pressed them against the top of her head. Then he bent down and whispered in her ear, Since you came, don't go. I'll trade your body for my help. As he spoke, a scorching hot breath gushed onto her neck, causing Natalie's body to stiffen. She felt an unprecedented sense of fear. Bryce, it's not what you think. Her eyes were red, her voice tinged with tears. He propped himself up and looked at her coldly. With a mocking smile on his lips, he said, It's too late to say that now. You should have thought of what might happen before you came into this room. Why should he believe her? Terrified, Natalie shouted at him, I don't care what you think. Get off me!
Full story is available at novelpalace.com. Click the link in the comment section to get it free.